Hello again. Today's walk starts high up at a trig point, about 5 minutes drive away from Athona. This is on an old Iron Age hill fort, a bit of hillside now known as Abbotsbury Castle, but there was never a castle in the sense of a constructed large building here. I'm looking, it's early, but this is the second Saturday in August, so the sun's already well up. Looking out over towards Weymouth and Portland, mysteriously in the mist there. Circling round to show you the sea. It's pretty blustery, I hope you can hear me above the wind. I've got a windshield on the microphone. Back towards Athona. Round over the area on this hill fort that would have been occupied. You can still just about see some of the old hut circles in the grass, some states of the weather. And round towards the Bride Valley and Ashley Chase, where I'm going to be walking today. Living up here in the Iron Age must have been pretty exposed, I have to say. I'll speak to you again in a couple of minutes. Morning sun certainly shows off the flowers of heather and gorse rather spectacularly today. The path, of course, has to go up and down over what would have been the surrounding ditch and rampart of the hill fort. And ahead in the distance you may just be able to see a beacon on a pole, one of those beacons they occasionally light in memory of times when they carried vital messages, such as the arrival of the Spanish Armada, glimpsed off Cornwall. There's the view down towards Abbotsbury. 3 camper vans in evidence. 3 or 4, yes. Who can blame them for having stopped for the night in laybys in this glorious spot, looking down over the Fleet, the inland stretch of water just behind Chesil Beach. And you may be able to spot just to the left of the 4th camper van there, St Catherine's Chapel at Abbotsbury, which when we walk to it always feels quite high up, but from here looks very low down. Well, the hill fort and the trig point are on the South Dorset Ridgeway path, as it's known. But at this point, the path carries on eastward. We're going to follow the road. A quiet lane at this time of the morning, I'm glad to say. Northwards, towards the Bride Valley. See you again in a few minutes. Well, that's a fairly clear message. Not a road people can drive down further. And more about the big house a bit later on this walk, I think. But at this point, we go off left. Up a farm track. Say good morning to the cows. My shadow stepping ahead of me. Good morning. One or two of them looking at me, wondering whether I bring good news of food or anything like that. But no. I just bring the intention to walk along by. because we're in harvest time at the moment. This particular field recently harvested, and the straw just set in lines that show up so clearly in the relatively low morning sun. And then ahead, you look down towards the calm of the Bride Valley. Little River Bride empties into the sea at Burton Bradstock, some of the origin of the name of that village. Onward. You know, this happens sometimes when you take a country walk. All these young cattle have decided that I am of interest, and they have followed me along in the field. Hello. I'm really sorry, I have nothing for you, but the whole herd has decided to come over to the fence and take a closer look at me. Yeah, well, you're fine beasts, aren't you? But a little bit troubled by flies, one or two of them. One there seems to be the favourite of all the local flies. Sorry guys, I'm sure somebody will be coming to bring you better news soon. They're galloping along. Still hoping that the direction I'm going is a direction that they're interested in. In the lane ahead of me there's a hare. Just gone through the fence. And behind me those heifers still galloping around. Well, I was really chuffed to see that hare. It was gone so quickly. I do hope you caught a glimpse. Just panning around here, having walked a few more minutes down the lane, just approaching some woodland known on the map as Chapel Copse, which may give you a clue where this walk is going to end up. There's some old skeletal oaks in the field. Right, here's where we turn off the farm track and onto a path in the Ashley Chase woodlands, the Chapel Copse. Some helpful information here. And a map. A majestic tree greets us as we start into this woodland. And the path is a bit up and down because it roughly follows the ravine of a very small stream. I'll let you walk with me for a moment, trying to keep the camera as steady as I reasonably can. I think you're getting one of these special gimbal gizmos that give a kind of steady cam effect. Ferns and moss. Walking here through an area of hazel, previously coppiced hazelwood. Join you again in a minute or two. Here's a rather serpentine ash tree. Look at that. Up, up, up. Above the canopy of the other surrounding trees. Walking here, it's not unusual to disturb deer just across the stream, but not seen any sign of deer this morning. If we came this way in springtime, there'd be bluebells. If you're lucky, spot the occasional early purple orchid. But it'd be a lot muddier, most likely. You can see the path is quite well used. So where is it all these people have been going to? Here's our answer. St. Luke's, the chapel in the woods. Just the ruin of the west end of a small chapel or church that originally stood here. An altar that was constructed out of some of the stones of the ruin in more recent times. Wooden carved cross. Christ dressed as a working man, I think, but also wearing a crown and with arms stretched wide. Is that in welcome as well as being in crucifixion? Turning to look the other way, just a wee bit of the history of St. Luke's. This land was given in 1246, a parcel of land given by one William of Lytton, William de Lytton. Lytton Cheney is a village just nearby, to monks of Netley Abbey near Southampton, who established a small Cistercian monastery of some sort here in what is now this rather magical woodland. And that continued until the early years of the 16th century, with the dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII. It came to an end. And this tiny church fell into ruin until the 20th century, when local landowners found it, fell in love with it, restored it to some extent just to keep it from falling completely apart. And there, those landowners are buried here. Or they have memorial stones here. It says, "Pray for the soul of David Milne Watson, born March 1869, died October 1945. There's David and his wife, Olga, who lie here. Here's another more recent stone commemorating both of them, just added to the wall of the old chapel. And they were the people also who built the big house at Ashley Chase, whose signs we saw earlier on. This is a wonderfully peaceful place, but many, many people find their way here, often on some kind of personal pilgrimage, I think, and always on and around the altar there'll be small mementos. There's a child's toy at the moment on a tree stump there. Sometimes people will leave prayer messages. You'll see they've been burning candles. That's the end of our walk for this morning. The sun filtering through the leaves. A little bit of birdsong in the background. Until next time, goodbye. Goodbye.